Hello, everybody. It's Sonia here, and welcome to Real Leadership and the amazing podcast and live that we're so passionate about connecting with great humans and great leaders. And I've heard so many amazing things about Michael that I thought I have to have him on the live and the podcast. We've been chatting offline for a few minutes and super genuine, authentic, warm, and wonderful. So we're going to be talking about Termina and also his journey and all about how he sees the world of leadership and his vision and mission around where he's hoping Termina will go. And I'm really excited about welcoming Michael to Real Leadership with Sonia. Welcome to the podcast and live.
Yeah, thank you. Super excited to have a chat.
So tell me about you. Tell me about your story. How did you get to here? You can start from when you were born.
It's a good question. So I guess for as long as I can remember, I've always been really interested in renewable energy, in energy as well, in the sense of improving people's lives. Just that energy is so pervasive that the idea of having sort of access to energy for everyone and cheaper energy is really sort of foundational to making people's lives better. So when I went to university, I thought I was going to go down sort of the battery research route, go and be in a lab and sort of try and work on some sort of innovative technology, but the lab wasn't really as suited to me. And I also had a friend that I met at uni that was also interested in the space, and we saw so many sort of issues in the sort of wider energy ecosystem that weren't really being solved, that there was sort of this disconnect between what was happening in the lab and what was sort of out in the real world. And I remember there was this one point where we saw this article around one of the big energy brokers in Australia that they were getting fined for misleading a bunch of their customers. So it was one of the big brands getting fined a few $1 million for essentially putting their customers on more expensive prices. And so that was clear to us that whole energy broker model was really broken. And so that's sort of where we started, was, okay, there has to be sort of a better way to go about this, to actually help businesses reduce their energy costs, because you've probably seen in the news over the years that it can be the difference between a business being profitable and sort of having to shut their doors.
So how long, when did you found it? How long ago did you start Termina?
So 4.5 years ago, we founded it. And yeah, since then we've managed to expand to about 3,000 locations across Australia and New Zealand. We actually just started New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, which is super exciting. So we've got a few clients on board there. And yeah, manage the energy and help reduce energy costs for businesses from, single shops all the way up to sort of your Betty's Burgers and Pizza Huts and Boost Juices, things like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw all the amazing businesses that you work with. That's incredible. That's incredible. And how many people now do you have working with you?
So we've got 19 now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It still feels like there's so much more that we're keen to build, which is, I guess, the exciting part. But yeah, it's been good fun so far, and we're still having fun, which is the important thing, I guess.
So tell me about your journey now that you're a CEO and the co-founder, right? That the leadership and culture must be now that you've got a team of 19 people and you're just going to keep growing. I can see that. Do you think about that? Do you think about what it means for you as a leader, and you're now leading this business, and what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting timing, because I think definitely for the first sort of 3 to 4 years, we were very much in the mode of heads down. We just need to build it and make sure it survives and sort of foster the growth of the business. And now we've had a bit of breathing room to start to think about those things, because you start to, I guess, get further away from the sort of end point of what people are working on. And so making sure that everyone's rowing in the same direction and the people are motivated and they're also sort of making the right decisions when you're not in the room is, I guess, the journey that we're on now. So even doing things like, a few weeks ago, we were getting sort of the co-founders and our head of operations all in the same room to work out what are really the key values of the company. What do we want to be I guess, known for, and what are the values that we want to have even behind closed doors when no one's really watching.
I love that. How did it go?
Yeah, really good. I mean, a lot of sort of back and forth, a lot of disagreements, a lot of people thinking that these things are important, maybe these things are more important. But I think that sort of constructive debate is super valuable, and we got to the point where we were all really happy with what those values look like. And I think in summary, we've always had that mission of what I mentioned before around helping improve people's lives by reducing costs and improving access to energy. That's sort of, I guess, our North Star. And then all the values are around how can we make sure that everyone in the team is able to, I guess, work towards that, and what are sort of the ground rules that they should be working towards that, while sort of giving them enough autonomy to do what they need to do.
I love you doing that, because I've been doing this now for 17 years, and the values and our mission and vision really underpin who we are and why we do what we do. And we work and partner with a lot of companies coming up with their culture charter statements. Because I don't know, I'm sure you've heard that saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It is about that. Now, are we hiring values aligned? Are we retaining values aligned? Developing values aligned people is fundamental. So for you, what does leadership mean to you? Like, what, if you think about this word leadership for yourself, like, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I was thinking about that before jumping on here. I think probably leadership is around keeping people motivated and getting the right people in the room, but also making sure that everyone's motivated to do what they're there to do and do it to the best of their ability. So for us, we've sort of got all of these things that we want to build over, a 10, maybe 20-year period that is going to take a really long time. It's going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of sort of ups and downs going through it, and making sure that you can get people excited and motivated enough to work on that, and also getting the people in the room that are already predisposed to want to work on those things. Because I think you probably, as you sort of said, part of that hiring process around culture fit is, you're doing both sides a disservice if you end up trying to fit a square into a round hole, that it's not really the right fit if someone's not, I guess, aligned to that mission and wanting to, or not excited by going to achieve that. So at least at the moment, that's sort of where my brain's at. But I'm curious from your perspective. You're the expert. What does it sort of mean for you?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Look, I do have this saying around, it is taken from a quote around leadership is about inspiring others to do more, be more, and learn more and achieve more. So it is about how do we serve others to be their best selves, or bring out the best in others, or to make an impact or a difference to others. But I'm always thinking about my leadership. I always think about, like, who am I, and am I, aligned to who I am and who I want to be and stand for, and my whole why around why we want to build great leaders. That's kind of our mantra. So it is, and I wish I'd thought about it much earlier. Like, I kind of fell into this space by accident. So if I could go back to my younger self, I'd definitely say to her, learn about leadership and self-development, like really get to understand who you are, and that whole self-belief thing. Like, looking at you and how you've started this up, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of leadership to go out and do something on your own. But if you could go back in time to your younger self, like, what would you say to him? Like, what would you say to your younger self? Are you kind of going, oh yeah, I'm actually really proud of, like, like where I am, but is there any advice that you'd give your younger self?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think to your point, the idea of leadership is you sort of need to develop that self-belief first. As you said, you need to have that self-belief before you can help anyone else. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I would say to myself, or someone sort of earlier on the journey, is make sure that you're not discounting yourself before you even get to the starting line, because that's always going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say that you're not good enough, you don't have the skills, or you're not an expert in the field, I think the most important thing is to be okay with starting and then also be okay with failing enough, because I don't really know anyone that gets it whatever they're trying to do absolutely perfect on the first go round. So sort of trusting the process and knowing that you can do it. You just got to stick it out for long enough
Right.
and work at it consistently enough, because anything worthwhile is probably not going to happen overnight. But as you sort of stumble through it, you get the skills to then be able to continue to do it better, and eventually you sort of look back and you go, oh, you know what, this is sort of working.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, if you think about that in terms of like where you are today, like it's been 4.5 years, and what gave you that inner courage, or that, I mean, to start your own journey, to start your own like company and startup, to be where you are now, where you're actually making such a difference to so many businesses? Like you mentioned, it was 3,000 businesses,
Three
like
thousand locations, yeah.
about 3,000 locations. Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And actually, I find even talking to lots of people in my space, we're always talking about how do we navigate that cost of running a business, and that's
Mm.
such a great way to look at how, you can look at your energy costs. But what made you kind of go, you know what, we're going to do this? Like, what made you kind
Mm.
of, I call it jumping off the cliff. Like, you kind of like going, well, let's jump off, let's do it. But what gave you that
Yeah.
leadership or courage to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I probably just had that itch. There was probably a mixture of naivety that it could happen, and but also luckily I had one of my good friends, Roddy, who we started the business together with, that we were
Yeah.
sort of in the trenches together and sort of egging each other on and motivating each other. And I think I always look at solo founders and really respect how hard it can be going at it alone for so long, because it is, sometimes years before you ever see something even starting to work. So I think that was really helpful in the sense of having someone who was, as motivated as I was and keen to really jump in the deep end with me.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one was, I guess, having a reason that was worthwhile enough that I was willing to work on it for 10 years.
Mm.
Because I think if I heard this saying that I really liked, that if you can convince someone out of starting their own company, then it's probably a good thing because it wasn't right for them. That I think you sort of either got to have a reason that's strong enough that no one's really going to talk you out of it, which is, I guess, probably where the naivety comes from.
I love that. I've never heard that before, but that actually makes really great sense. Because I think if I went back 17 years ago to when I started Leadership HQ, I wonder if I would have, yeah, I'm wondering whether if someone sat down with me, I don't think they would have spoken. My parents tried. My parents
Oh,
did
really?
try. Yeah.
What did they say to
And,
you?
oh, this is an interesting topic, which many of us talk about, right? Because I'm Generation X,
Yeah.
even though I don't look it, just FYI. But anyway, I'm Generation X, and my parents were baby boomers, right? So for them, they felt that, looking at their perspective of the world, that as a female as well, that my
Mm.
role was, oh, you should focus on being a mother, or you should focus on getting a government job. So they were very security focused. So they felt starting Leadership HQ, which it was very risky. Like, it was too risky. And I'm competing against, lots of different other big consulting firms. And back then it was mostly run by men. So they said, why don't you work at the council? Why don't you start to think about getting a job at the council, having the security? And okay, look, I actually think anyone that works in any different areas, like whatever you have a passion for, or whatever your heart, wherever you want to, your skills or talents or heart wants to take you. I'm not anti-government or working government jobs or even working corporate jobs. I'm not anti. I have worked in government. I have worked in corporate. But again, I had that itch. It was like,
Mm.
hey, I've got this kind of fire inside of me, and I want my 80-year-old self to be proud of her, that she actually did go out and she gave it a go. And if it failed, it failed. If it didn't, it didn't. And I've stuffed up heaps. Like I have stuffed
Yeah.
up so many times, but I'm really proud of her that 17 years ago, she didn't listen to anyone. Like she just said, no, I just have to follow this because if
And
I don't, I regret it.
it's that regret minimization strategy that you've always got to make the decision of on my deathbed, what's the thing that I'm going to regret more, doing it or not doing it. And
Yeah.
99% of the time it's going to be that you didn't do it. But I also think that there's definitely something to be said for. I really like the idea of distance traveled. That I think hearing your story, there's not to discount anyone's sort of path, but I would say that I'm fortunate to come from a loving family that values education and was able to support me in all those sorts of things. And so the distance traveled for me versus maybe for you who had, I guess, more the societal constraints of what a traditional role should look like for you. I feel like it's always good to keep it in perspective of sort of the distance traveled of what you've achieved to sort of give yourself a pat on the back for.
Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it because so many people do focus on which is good, the present or the here and now stuffed up, or this is where I'm at. But you need to look at the journey. You need to look at the distance travel and go, hang on a second, but I've done this, and I've achieved this, and it's going to be bumpy. But yeah, I think, and you learn so much around that distance. And I think for you, like if you think about the last 4.5 years, what has been like, I'd love to know what have been some of your successes, but also what has been some of those kind of stuff ups that you've gone, okay, I learned a lot from that. Like that was uncomfortable, but I learned something from it. Anything you're willing to share?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there's so many that I can't remember, but I mean, I think there's sort of the good stuff ups and the bad stuff ups. If I think about the good stuff ups, it's sort of, Roddy and I in the very, very early days being flexible around how we get to the destination, but being very sort of stubborn about the destination, if that makes sense. So knowing, okay, we know that we need to help businesses reduce their energy costs to, improve their businesses, improve people's lives, things like that. And that's sort of the destination that we're trying to get to, is help businesses reduce their energy costs and emissions in any way possible. But in the early days, it was flexible about how we're going to do that. What's the business model? Who are we going to sell to? How are we going to sell to them? All of these different things that you sort of try one avenue and then that doesn't work, and you got to try another one and that doesn't work. And I would say those are all really good stuff ups, because it's that whole trial by error and sort of brute forcing it. And then there's plenty of bad stuff ups as well that we also learned from. But I mean, the one that always sticks out that was probably the most painful, I remember when there was still just a couple of us in the team in 2022, the energy market for the first time ever in history in Australia completely shut down. So it got to the cap, which was, I think, $15,000 per megawatt hour in the energy market, in the wholesale market. And it was stuck there for so long that they essentially turned off trading. So it was like they just shut down the ASX for 3 days and said no one's allowed to trade. And so the price was stuck so high that we were looking at all of our businesses that are our clients, and their prices were about to go up by 2 to 5x for everyone. And the whole business is based on a saving split model. So it was like, okay, our whole business is about to collapse, and Roddy's just gone on holidays. So I'm sort of doing a mad scramble trying to call all of the suppliers and trying to, I guess, negotiate rates for all of our clients, and sort of doing this all in the background and not really having time to think about anything else but getting that sorted. So I don't know if that was necessarily a stuff up, but definitely something that was painful enough that it's left a mark for sure.
Wow. Wow. And how did it all go? Like what happened?
I mean, we're still here, which is the main thing. It didn't end up being as bad. We managed to sort of pull through it okay, and I guess the important thing was we were able to help the clients that we were working with be able to sort of avoid all that, because it was pretty turbulent. So we managed to sort of make it through. But I just remember that very vividly as sort of probably one of the the hardest couple of weeks in the business for sure.
Yeah, that would have been really, really challenging.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But those things, it's building your courage muscle, isn't it? It's just, you look about that and you go, yeah, I got strength from that.
Yeah. And I think again, back to that idea of sort of pushing through is, I'm not sure about your journey, but from when I speak to people, it always sounds like most people have a near-death experience or something close to it, or something that's sort of, challenging throughout the business that you just got to be able to sort of persevere through, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and you're gonna have plenty more to come. I can tell you right now. So,
definitely.
I think you just have to go. It's just like you just have to embrace it and go. Look, it's gonna suck, but I know it'll pass. You just have to move through it, not avoid it. The only way through is through. You just have to keep moving forward.
Definitely.
So I would love to know, how do you look after yourself? Like, how do you sharpen your saw? How do you make sure you're your best self?
Yeah, good question. I would say that for me, definitely a big one is just sort of having the daily routine of, okay, I need to wake up and do some sort of exercise, get the blood pumping. I think that for me, that's sort of the equivalent of, having a daily meditation or something like that, is making sure I'm sort of centered and ready for the day. And then I think in terms of sort of the thing that I'm working on at the moment, I think, is we've sort of gone from this business, which is all hands on deck, everyone on the tools, to now we're building a team, and I guess building a company, trying to get the right people on board and develop them. Is how can we sort of build those skills to help enable our employees to sort of be their best. And I think that's sort of the thing that I'm trying to focus on more over the next sort of year or so, is how can I start developing those skills to make sure everyone on the team's working at their best, not just me.
Well, let us know if you'd love any recommendations, because that's our space. Yeah, where we work with incredible leaders and teams to help them be great leaders, because that's what makes a difference. We're all leading. So, and leadership it's not a title, it's an attitude. So it's it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I mean, it's if you're able to get everyone to, improve by a few percent, it's probably the biggest leverage thing you can do, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you have any favorite kind of tools or books or anything like that that you've read or that you love in the leadership space?
The one that comes to mind, probably just because it was the one I most recently read, was Unreasonable Hospitality. I really like that idea of regardless of which domain or who it is, having that idea of unreasonable service to whoever or whatever it is that you're doing. So I definitely try and channel that in sort of for our clients, as well as for the team as well, just making myself as available as possible. But if I'm totally honest, Sonia, I need more help. I'm trying to develop just like everyone else. So there's plenty more I need to learn.
I'll definitely send you one of my books, but I could definitely recommend. There's so many books that I love. One of my favorites recently was Legacy by James Kerr. I thought that was an excellent book around the All Blacks and leadership. But there's plenty more. I could send you a list of things to sharpen your saw or get you thinking about. So yeah, there's so much. You can tell if I showed you my library, you would just like, I don't even know, like it is pretty, like it's pretty. I have a lot of books.
I'd be more than happy to spend the rest of the podcast you training me on all the best stuff you've read.
The best stuff I've read. Oh my gosh. What's some of the best stuff I've read? I'm just having a quick anything from Ryan Holiday. I love anything from Ryan Holiday. Obviously, Simon Sinek. Jim Grant is amazing as well. Let me think. Traction. Have you read Traction?
Is that's the guy who started DuckDuckGo?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. James, what else do I love? I do. Let me think. Who else is amazing here? Scaling Up's a good book from
Yep.
Van Harnish. Adam Grant has written some amazing books as well around leadership. I'm a big one around neuroscience and leadership as well.
Yep.
So anything around the brain. Just having a quick. Obviously, Atomic Habits is good. That's a very popular one. I do love the book Emotional Agility by Susan David. I thought that was an excellent book. Obviously, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What else is a great book?
Are there any ones that you find yourself going back to pull tidbits from?
Stephen Covey's book. I definitely go back to his
Yeah.
one. James Kerr book Legacy. I definitely go back to. Ryan Holiday's books I do as well. Where is it? See, I've color coded them. It's called the. Anyway, what's it called? Let me have a quick look if I can find it. What's it called? Because one of my mentor, or his Paul Scarra he's the former CEO of Virgin. He put me onto it. It was called How to Be a Great Boss, but I'll have to find who that author was. I'm just trying to think who else are the books that I always go back to.
Yeah, I'm writing all these down. I've got plenty of homework after this.
Yeah, True North is really good by Bill George. That's an excellent book. Look, there's just so many. Good to Great by Jim Grant is obviously a classic. That's a really good one. The Advantage is a great book. Anything by Patrick Lencioni, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, is a really good one as well. Anyway, I'm sure there's heaps to get you going. I hope that helps.
Yeah, there's plenty for me to work with there.
Yeah, I just think, I know you're about like habits and structure and stuff. Like I spend literally at least 15 minutes a day, minimum 15 minutes, even if I can just get in 15 minutes just reading something. For me, it's just that knowledge is just really important. I'll send you through some other recommendations. So if anyone else is watching or listening to this, please reach out, because happy to share anything to kind of sharpen your saw, because that's just how, and I just think it gives organizations and teams the edge. If you think about, like, also as well, I talk about this a lot, with the onset of AI, and people are kind of a bit nervous about AI, and I'm like, well, AI is not going to take away the human skills and the leadership skills. So why don't you focus on using AI for things that are like processing or admin? But if you save half an hour using AI to help you with something that would normally take you, an hour, but you use AI to help you with something that's more task focused, then put that half an hour into a leadership bucket or into a human connection bucket and go, oh, I can go and spend half an hour with my team now. Like I'll spend that time doing LBWA, leadership by walking around, or so having an edge of leadership capability and human skills is what's going to give you the edge. So
the other thing I think about a lot is the actual organizational structure. When you think about a business, it does seem like really the big difference between businesses over time and how some are able to scale better than others really comes down to just how is the organization structured in terms of how the teams are set up and what are the types of roles on those teams. Then also what's the communication structure inside of those teams and between those teams, because that really determines how fast a company can move, how quickly they can build, how well they can function. And so that's definitely something that I'm trying to understand better myself, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the key to that is check out something like there's like the 16 personalities test, which is a free online test that you can do. Get your team to do something like that, or even StrengthsFinder, Gallup StrengthsFinder, I love too. There's a book called Surrounded by Idiots, and It's actually a really interesting book, but what it's based on is that's based on more of the DISC profiling. That if you did the 16 personalities test, understanding people's different preferences and personalities. So once you understand that someone's more of an introverted speaker or an extroverted, an introverted processor versus an extroverted processor, or like understanding people's different. Like I did it yesterday at a workshop in Sydney with a leadership program, and it was really interesting listening to everyone's profiles in the group. There was about 16 of them. But it also gave us more of an understanding around, oh, now I understand why you process like that, or why you communicate like that, or how you think like that. So if I'm working with introverts myself, and I'm an extrovert because that's how I get my energy from people, I have to give them time to process. So I don't go up to introverts going, blah, 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 blah. Tell me what you think right now. Like I go, oh, let's have a conversation, blah, blah. Did you want to go away and think about it? And then we can regroup or something. Like it's kind of understanding that everyone's different and understanding different personality preferences. That's a really good one, and it's free, the 16 personalities test. It's a great team building tool. Then you're able to understand how people like to communicate. You can put together like a leadership charter. Like as the 19 of us as a group, what are we going to be? And based on your values, how are we going to behave? Anyway, I'll definitely send you through some great ideas, because, we love helping startups and small businesses, because we're a small business too, because, we need support. You need people to lift you up and help each other. So I just love what you're doing. I'd love to know, just as a final thing, where do you want to take it? Like what's kind of your vision for the organization, like this amazing business of yours?
The big pie in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's really around, I said it before, around helping businesses reduce their energy costs and emissions. I think the big thing for us is, and the thing that we hear is, businesses want to reduce their emissions, but either they're not really sure how, or they assume that it's going to cost them more by doing so. And we want to have a place where all of the data is there to make better energy decisions. So you can do both. You can reduce your energy costs while reducing your emissions, and getting businesses both in developed and hopefully eventually developing countries, around the world, to a point where we can help them improve the access to energy, reduce those energy costs, and reduce their emissions all at the same time. And it's sort of this win-win if we're able to do that, to help businesses reduce their energy costs, both by reducing the price of their energy, but then also looking at things like, how can we help them make the best decision on equipment replacements and electrification and those sorts of upgrades, where it's really hard to know what the return on investment is going to be. But with the data and the simulations in one place, it's very easy to understand how that is going to pay itself back over X number of years, so they can make a better decision to reduce those costs and emissions.
Oh, I love that. Well, I can't wait I'm going to check you out a little bit more, see, how we could also be a client of yours, look at some of our clients, see how we can be part of your amazing vision and mission as well. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited about, your journey and where you're heading. And if there's anything we can do to support you, please let us know. And if anyone is interested in what you're doing, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so I mean, the best thing is either go to the website and to the contact page, or they can just reach out to me directly. It's just michael@termina.io. Always happy to have a chat and see how we can help. But I really appreciate you having me on, Sonia. It was really, really interesting having a chat, and keen to hear about some more of your lessons offline as well.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much as well. And you just keep rocking and rolling it in this space. And I know that you are going to continue to make so much of an impact with so many other locations and businesses as well. So thank you.
Appreciate it, Sonia.
All right. You take care. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And remember to subscribe, share, comment. If you'd love to be on the podcast and live, reach out to the team, and always stay kind and courageous. Thank you. Okay, that was it.